evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Kalamazoo City Commission to order for Monday, May 15th, 2017. Clerk Borland, please call the roll.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Knott.
Here.
Commissioner Milzard.
Present.
Commissioner Sykes.
Here.
Commissioner Urban.
Here.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Present.
Mayor Hopewell.
Present. For our opening ceremony this evening, we will have an invocation by Bishop Daniel Cunningham of Greater Faith Empowerment Center. I ask that you stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, Bishop.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and Vice Manager, City Manager. I just want to say this before. I want to say thank you for allowing us to really bless our city. And I don't count it lightly, but I count it honor and privilege to be a servant leader along with you. Thank you, guys. Father, we just thank you for this beautiful and wonderful day that you have made. We thank you for the opportunity for our community, for Kalamazoo, to come together. Lord, we speak your wisdom upon each of our leaders that are in this room right now, Lord. Let us make the right decisions. Let us make the decisions that would change our community and make us the paradigm for the rest of the state, rest of our nation, Lord. Father, we just thank you for the opportunity to converse and to talk among each other, Lord. Even though we may not agree, Lord, let us come to a settled resolution and civil for us to move forward in this great city and this great place. We thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome everybody. We're glad to have you all here. We are on item B3, introduction of guests. We have a special recognition that is occurring this evening. I'll call Chief Hadley to the podium. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, City Attorney, City Commission. Thank you. I truly appreciate you taking the time this evening to recognize Deputy Chief Don Webster for his 25 years of service to this community, not only as a member of KDPS, but as a coach, a mentor, Douglas Community Center board president, and a friend to many in this community. I want to recognize his wife, Shonda, his daughter, Demetria, and his son, Devin. If it wasn't for their love and support and willingness to share Don with us, all of his success and contributions wouldn't have been possible. So thank you very much to his family. On a personal level, I truly am going to miss the early morning laughs in my office, the jokes, and sometimes tears, and all things south side of Chicago. God bless my friend, and know we were only saying catch you later, we're not saying goodbye. So without any further ado, if I could introduce soon to be retired Deputy Chief Don Webster. Don?
Wow. I said I was going to wait till Wednesday to do this. Chief, thank you for those kind words. I'd just like to say to this commission and former commissions, thank you for so many wonderful years here at Public Safety. It has been an honor and a pleasure to have served this community for 25 years. And because of your support, the men and women in public safety are able to provide that great service to this community. It has been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful 25 years here. I just remember coming to Kalamazoo 25 years ago, and it's just so amazing that the opportunities and the people that I've got the opportunity to meet and become friends with here in Kalamazoo. I made the best choice by skipping 94 going west to Chicago and coming here in Kalamazoo. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank the city of Kalamazoo, past and former commissioners, for allowing me the opportunity to work in this great city. And I just want to say, you know, I'm leaving public safety on a great note. Someone asked me the other day, you know, why are you leaving? And I said that the department is in good hands. I said the community is fully engaged with public safety. And for the first time in a long time, no one's calling for my job. And I get to leave on my own terms. And so, again, I want to thank this great city, and I want to just say, please continue to keep the men and women in your hearts. I say this day in and day out that the men and women at public safety go out every day with the community, with the community in their heart every day. They have the best intentions to do the right things. And as the chief often say, you know, we're human. We don't always get it right. But I will say 99% of the time we do. And we continue to get better. And so again, thank you all for a wonderful 25 years. And my co-workers back here, like the chief said, I'm not going to say goodbye. I'm just moving on to Kalamazoo Public School as the director of security. And so I will be continue to serve this great community. And thank you all.
Commissioners, we have two proclamations, but before we do, Chief Webster, we know that you care about this community. That's why you're continuing to go on to care about our kids and keeping them safe. So we know that you will do such a fantastic job for them as you've done for us for 25 years. So we've been blessed to have you. So thank you, Chief. Thank you for your service. We have two proclamations, one for National Gun Violence Awareness Day and one for Preservation Month. I'll head to the podium. And I believe Commissioner Sykes has this proclamation.
So for the proclamation for National Gun Violence Awareness Day, June 2nd, 2017, whereas every day 93 Americans are killed by gun violence, and whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than people in other developed countries, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from dangerous people, and law enforcement officers know their communities best. These individuals are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas June 2nd, 2017 would have been the 20th birthday of Hadia Pendleton, a teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade and was tragically shot and killed just weeks later. And whereas to help honor Hadia and the 93 Americans whose lives are cut short and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 2nd, 2017 as the 3rd annual National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas by wearing orange on June 2nd, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives and lost human potential of Americans stolen by gun violence. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 51st City Commission and Bobby J. Hopewell, Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, I, Commissioner Shannon Sykes, on this day, 15th of May, do hereby declare June 2nd to be Gun Violence Awareness Day in Kalamazoo and encourage all citizens to support efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives.
Hi, my name is Rick O'Million. I live in Kalamazoo County, and I belong to the Moms Demand Action Group in Kalamazoo area, also in Michigan, and also the Coalition for Common Ground in Kalamazoo. And we all want to thank you for your commitment, continuing commitment to make this proclamation and the things that you do to reduce violence in your community. We appreciate it. That's why we spend our time here. Thank you.
And now, proclamation for Preservation Month. Commissioner Anderson.
For Preservation Month, I believe Josh Koenig, I hope I'm saying it right.
Christopher
Can't read.
Wright.
Okay, different person, all right. And who is here to receive it then?
Christopher Wright.
Thank you, sir. All right. This is a proclamation for Preservation Month. Whereas the month of May is designated nationwide as Preservation Month by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And whereas 50 years ago in 1965, on June 1st, the City Commission of Kalamazoo approved the creation of a Commission for Historic Preservation charged with the responsibilities of identifying important historical sites and collecting and preserving historical materials. And whereas in the 50 years intervening, historic preservation has had an ongoing positive impact on the city, preserving the historic character of our downtown areas, businesses, and neighborhoods. And whereas the historic preservation has been an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for the city of Kalamazoo, as well as communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. Now therefore, I, David Anderson, on behalf of the 51st City Commission and Mayor Bobby J. Hopewell of the City of Kalamazoo, do proclaim May 2017 as National Preservation Month and call upon the people of Kalamazoo to join their fellow citizens in Kalamazoo, in Michigan, and across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance.
My name is Christopher Wright. I'm here representing the Kalamazoo Historic Preservation Commission. The Kalamazoo Historic Preservation Commission would like to invite the City Commission, city staff, and general public to attend its 2017 Award of Merit ceremony on Wednesday, May 24th at 5:30 p.m. The ceremony will be held at the barn at the River Launch at 1523 Riverview Drive. These awards are given every May in recognition of the National Historic Preservation Month, and which the Kalamazoo Historic Preservation Commission has been presenting these awards for over 20 years now. This year's award recipients have done an outstanding job of rehabilitating historic structures and have actively promoted or contributed to historic preservation in the city of Kalamazoo. This year's awards are given out to 4 different projects. The first one is the W.G. Bartholomew House at 832 Elmwood. is one of the oldest houses in the city of Kalamazoo and has gone through extensive structural repairs and restoration. The second is the former Grand Trunk Western Depot at 421 and 427 East Michigan and was built in 1890. The building is unique in that it is one of only 2 surviving freight sheds out of dozens in the downtown. The building is now being used for restaurants and office space. Number 3 is the City Savings Bank building at 1301 Portage and was built in 1928. And for nearly a century in between, the building has been used as a drugstore, laundromat, insurance agency, and has housed doctor and dentist's offices. In 2013, the building was acquired by the Kalamazoo County Land Bank, and with the assistance of a facade grant, the exterior of the building was restored, and a new restaurant is opening in the building this month. And fourthly, the Kalamazoo Public Library Local History Room website, All About Kalamazoo, is a leader in web-based historical information and includes an online index of the Kalamazoo Gazette, hundreds of local photographs from 3 local institutions, nearly 600 interconnected websites covering more than 20 categories. A special delight are the pages about people and places in Kalamazoo's past, researched and written by members of the Kalamazoo Public Library staff, including biographies, cemeteries, rural schools, houses, buildings, businesses, educational and cultural institutions. The website is an invaluable resource for researchers ranging from middle school students competing in History Day to genealogists. Please join us at the awards ceremony as we honor those people and projects that honor Kalamazoo's invaluable heritage. I would also like to announce in its 5th year, the Hidden Kalamazoo Tour on June 17th and 18th. The tour showcases unseen and underused historical spaces in downtown and has increased awareness of historic spaces while raising almost $50,000 for preservation-related projects in Kalamazoo. Tickets are on sale now at 6 locations. Thank you.
Commissioners, you have before you the agenda for adoption this evening. Are there any changes to the formal agenda? Mr. Manager?
Yes, we'll be adding a resolution tonight to the consent agenda, and the resolution is for adoption is recommending approval of the application from Bird Nest LLC, doing business as the Stamped Robin, for a redevelopment liquor license under PA 501 of 2006. The project is located within the city's existing downtown development district at 128 Portage Road.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment on items on the consent agenda? That's items under F. That item will need to be moved to the regular agenda. If you have such an item, please indicate at this time. Seeing no one, Communications Manager Ritzman.
I would like to highlight a meeting, work session next week on Monday. The City Commission will meet on Monday, May 22, 2017 at 6 p.m. in the community room at City Hall. The purpose of this meeting will be to discuss code administration.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Item E, I'll now open a public hearing to receive comments on the 2016 Action Plan substantial amendments and the 2017 Action Plan for funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The action for tonight is number 1, a motion to accept the recommendations of the Community Development Act Advisory Committee and adopt the 2016 Action Plan, why can't I say substantial today? Amendment and the 2017 Action Plan And 2, authorize the Director of Community Planning and Development to act as the official representative of the city and sign all required HUD documents. Anyone wanting to comment on this item during this public hearing, please step to the podium. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live, oh, we have a staff presentation? Didn't know that. Come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. Community Planning and Development is here to request that you approve the 2016 Action Plan Substantial Amendment and the 2017 Action Plan. The 2017 Action Plan is year 4 of our 2014-18 Consolidated Plan. In September of 2016, 2 pre-submission trainings were held for potential applicants to request funding for the 2017 program year for affordable housing. In February 2017, CDAC voted to fund approved 2016 applicants who applied under the city's 2016 continued funding application. 2017 continued funding was based on 2016 applicants' program completion points not falling below 50. Included in the 2017 budget, in addition to the competitive awards, are funding for public safety, parks and recreation, fair housing, code enforcement, and residential demolition. On April 13th, CDAC held their public hearing and recommended that the action plan be forwarded to the Commission to hold a public hearing and approve the draft action plan. No changes were made to the plan due to our not having received our official 2017 allocation of funding. Our anticipated allocation, unless changes are made as a result of the public hearing tonight, are as follows. CDBG, $1,339,887. Home, $424,742. ESG, $124,518. In addition to our 2017 action plan, Community Development asks that you approve the submission of our 2016 action plan substantial amendment, which is required due to a reduction in in program year 2016 projects. The final step in this process after tonight's public hearing and approval of our 2016 action plan substantial amendment and our 2017 action plan is the submission of both plans, which are due 45 days before the beginning of Community Development's program year, which is July 1st, provided we have received our 2017 HUD allocation. I would like to thank you for your consideration this evening, and I would like to welcome Sasha Aker, our CDAC chair, to the podium to say a few words.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Sasha and I'm the CDAC chair. And we are a group of very dedicated and enthusiastic city residents who looked over both of these plans and are very excited about them. And we're a mechanism for the city to get feedback from citizens. So that's who we are and that's what we're doing. And we enthusiastically support these 2 documents and we hope that you do too. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We are still in the public hearing. Anyone wanting to comment on this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Again, commissioners, the requested actions, number 1, to accept the recommendations of the Community Development Advisory Committee and adopt the 2016 Action Plan Substantial Amendment and the 2017 Action Plan. And 2, authorize the Director of Community Planning and Development to act as the official representative of the city and sign all required HUD documents. Is there a motion? Moved by Commissioner Knott.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Sykes. Is there discussion? Commissioner Anderson?
I would just like to remind everybody that is paying attention to this action tonight that even though it comes here in some ways it is seems fresh to this commission, that what this represents is behind the scenes committee and after committee and advisory body filled with citizens who give their time to this city to bring their intellect and their time to all kinds of areas, whether it's environmental concerns, whether it's a particular source of funding, spend hours and hours doing this good work, which allows it to come to us with some additional community input and some vetting. And I just want to recognize all that good work that happens. Thank you, Chair Sasha Acker, for being here to represent that, but there are other people here in the audience who spent a long time on this committee as well. I appreciate that. It's something that is not always recognized when we talk about community input, all this community, real-life community that works with us in this larger infrastructure here in the city to do this good work.
Other comments, Commissioners? Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Knott.
Yes.
Commissioner Milzard.
Abstain. My employer is in the action plan.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, Commissioners. Mr. Manager, the consent agenda, please.
The following items are presented for approval. First, the approval of the purchase of a combination sewer cleaning truck from Rock Equipment LLC in the amount of $441,686.37. Next, the approval of a contract with Lexipol LLC for public safety policy manual and daily training bulletin services in the amount of $122,610. Next is the approval of the purchase of a truck-mounted high-pressure sewer cleaner from Frederickson Supply in the amount of $316,969.43. Next is the approval of a memorandum of understanding with Kalamazoo Regional Education Services Agency Youth Opportunities Unlimited in the amount of $840,000 to provide summer youth employment and training opportunities for City of Kalamazoo youth. Next is the approval of a memorandum of understanding between Rivers Edge Partners LLC and the City of Kalamazoo for the extension of Harrison Street. Next is the adoption of a resolution recognizing Building Blocks of Kalamazoo as a nonprofit organization operating in the community for the purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license. Next is the acceptance of a grant from the Mayor's Riverfront Park Development in the amount of $35,000 and approval of an increase in the general fund appropriation by the same amount to complete upgrades to the women's and men's restrooms at Homer Stryker Field. And next, we have the approval of mayor appointments and term extension for the Downtown Development Authority for Jeff Brenneman for a term expiring March 31, 2021, and the extension of Bjorn Green's term until March 31, 2019. And finally, we have adoption of a resolution recommending approval of the application from Bird Nest LLC doing business as the Stamp Robin for a redevelopment liquor license under PA 501 of 2006. The project is located with the city's existing downtown development district at 128 Portage Road.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 1 through 9 and authorize the city manager to sign all documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion? Moved by Commissioner Knott, supported by Commissioner Urban. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Milzard.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Knott.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. The regular agenda, Mr. Manager?
Item number 1 is approval of a contract with Hoffman Brothers for the Gull Ransom Harrison Roundabout construction in the amount of $1,930,701.91 and approval of a transfer of major streets bond reserves and working capital in the amount of $206,000 to the Rivers Edge Roundabout Project Code.
Mr. Manager?
Yeah, I'd like to have Public Services Director James Baker and Community Planning and Development Director Kick come forward. They're going to give a brief update on this project from last meeting.
Good evening, directors.
Good evening, Your Honor. City Manager, members of the Commission. Director Kick and I would just like to go over some of the background design features of the roundabout as it's presented tonight. I'm going to talk about some of the design intent, why a roundabout was chosen for this intersection, some of the design constraints. This intersection here has around 17,000 vehicles per day that pass through it. In terms of that traffic volume, that speed, and the crash history that we're seeing in this intersection, there's some improvements needed. Now, our engineers have a few different methods for improving intersections. A possibility besides roundabout would be a traffic signal. When we compare a traffic signal to a roundabout, we see that personal injuries and fatalities can be reduced by nearly 90% with a roundabout design as compared to a signalized intersection. And the reason for that is that the roundabout reduces vehicle speeds. Not only does it reduce vehicle speeds, but it also eliminates many points of conflict that a conventional intersection would see. This roundabout is designed to accommodate vehicles, transit, trucks. This route is on the Metro Transit line. We also have industrial mixed-use uses in this area. Not only this roundabout, it's a bit of a placemaking. This roundabout, in comparison to a signalized intersection, really brings something to the community. This is a gateway not only for portions of downtown, but also portions of the north side neighborhood. In addition to our current traffic flows and volumes, we also anticipate growth in this region. Growth was also taken into account during the design. So again, with the traffic speed, crash history, and our given choices to improve this intersection, we felt that a roundabout was the best compromise of all choices to really bring something positive to the community.
I'm going to speak to you about bicycles and pedestrians in the roundabout, particularly at the KRVT crossing, which is at the end of the bridge on Gull Street as the trail comes south out of Verburg Park. Right now, I get a lot of correspondence that this trailhead is extremely unsafe. It's very difficult to cross those 4 lanes of traffic with the speeds that are well over 40 miles an hour currently. This plan extends the KRVT, the Kalamazoo River Valley Trail multi-use path, to a safer crossing at the roundabout where pedestrians and bicyclists can cross over traffic islands. What you see on the orange highlighted portion of the map is a 10-foot wide extension of that path. It's not a sidewalk, it's a shared use path. The radius further north, which is kind of cut out of this page, is extended so that bicycles can easily go around the curve and come down this path instead of having to cross at the intersection. The roundabout reduces the potential for vehicle-person points of conflict from 24 to 8, making it safer for pedestrians and bicycles with slower speeds of 15 miles an hour in the roundabout. National standards do not recommend us putting bike lanes directly into the roundabout. Anything that we have looked at, whether it's AASHTO standards or NACTO, all of these have said put the bike paths around the edges, and that's when bikes act more like pedestrians at that point. This design continues the Kalamazoo River Valley multi-use path to connect to the new downtown connector as it travels south down Harrison in this drawing. Bicycle lanes are planned for North Street as an east-west bike connector as part of the citywide non-motorized plan. This has been in our non-motorized plan since 1998, so we definitely wanted to check in with everybody since that's a 15-year-old plan. And so during Imagine Kalamazoo and our non-motorized charrettes and conversations that we have had, we have continued to get support to put those bicycle lanes on North Street. Crosswalk improvements are also included in this project for the intersections of North Street and Harrison. That's also a very difficult place to cross in this neighborhood. Traffic still comes down North Street quite quickly, and we need some good crosswalks and intersection improvements on North Street also.
In addition to the roundabout, through this corridor, we're also making other improvements with this project. Some of those key improvements focus on North Street and that intersection with Gulf Street. Left turns from North Street onto Gulf Street have been eliminated. The intersection has been restructured to allow right in, right out only movements so that we can eliminate some major points of conflict as vehicles come out onto Gulf Street to head east. This has also been a key point of cut-through traffic that has originated on North Street. These structural changes will help. It's the first step to helping change those methods and change those behaviors that cause the cut-through traffic. In addition to the roundabout itself, we also have a tremendous amount of landscaping and streetscaping going on. There'll be 53 new street trees planted during this project. We'll also be bringing on the first large-scale use of LED lights. This project will see 48 new LED lights going up.
Just to reiterate the public engagement that we've had around this project, in 2016, we held 3 meetings specifically with the neighbors who live near this roundabout and the businesses in the area as well, and got their input throughout the summer and fall of 2016. At the end of the year, we met with the Northside neighborhood during an Imagine Kalamazoo event on December 13th. That's when the engineer from Whiteman was actually there as well at that neighborhood meeting where we could discuss the roundabout with the residents and with the neighborhood association. So at that time, we also began to discuss developing a Ransom Street corridor plan and talking about when those bike lanes would also go on North Street. This project is one piece of many projects that the Northside neighborhood is going to be seeing in the next years to come. And they've given us a lot of great input to continue to go forward in planning the streets, and they have amazing plans for economic development and housing throughout the neighborhood as well. And the streets have to be a critical component of that. So again, this is one project in a series of many that will be coming forward. I also had a letter from Dave Rockowitz, who is the director at Kalamazoo County Parks. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us today, so he wanted me to share with you that he believes that the roundabout is a logical solution to the current and difficult KRVT crossing on Gull Street, that the proposed road diet and elimination of the left turns that Director Baker discussed on North Street as well is a big improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, directors. Commissioners, you have questions for the directors? Commissioner Mozart?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, so the contract that we're looking at tonight is, in addition to the roundabout, reworking all of the highlighted portions of these streets?
Correct.
Okay. I guess my follow-up to that is, and I think the roundabout is the right way to go, and I really don't have any issue with the roundabout design. I guess I just wanted to reiterate my concern over, we're essentially redoing a block of North Street, which we've said is going to have bike lanes, but this design does not show bike lanes in that one block portion. So I guess my concern is that we're spending money on something that we may have to spend money on again to add bike lanes, or why, I guess I don't, maybe I'm not seeing the bike lane in this block or how it connects as the east-west connector, and that's really just my concern is where the bike lane fits into the block that we're redoing, proposing to redo this year.
Do you want me to answer that? Okay. So the east-west plan for the bike lanes on North Street would be paint. They would not be a protected bike lane or an extension of the KRVT trail. So we really need to go back to the residents and really discuss what that section of North Street looks like. So when we go back to repave North Street in the future, then we would restripe and we would put those bike lanes in.
I guess but when you get to this intersection, where do they go? you know, when you hit the end of the stripe,
On Gall Street?
yeah, when North Street hits Gall. I mean, that's really just the basic point of my concern is I don't understand where.
Sure. So if you could pull the drawing down a little bit again, Scott. So just above the Kalamazoo River Valley Trail, where you see the crossing now, it's like a little on-ramp for bikes at that point. So if you're coming down Gull Street, if you're not already on the trail, you'll have signage that tells you that you can get onto this shared use path, and then you would travel on your bike onto the shared use path and then intersect with the roundabout. Unless you wanted to go to North Street, and then you would get off where you're at North Street, and then you're gonna have to continue up on Street.
So you would be entering the street at the, like a 90 degree, so you're, it wouldn't be like a
So you
turn.
would, right, you would probably have to stop there. We could work in a little off-ramp at that point as well. That might be I see your solution, yeah.
Yeah, and
No,
essentially that's
great.
all I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, these are
Yeah.
things that could easily be change orders.
Completely.
And that's really all my concern. And then also
Yeah.
sort of the how do you, same thing, traveling, you know, eastbound from that bike lane, how do you,
Get
you know,
that
do we have the
on.
right on-ramps to get on?
Sure.
And that's all I'm not seeing here. And again, those are changes that
Perfect.
could probably happen, I assume, within a change order. So that's really all I'm getting at.
No, that's great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Urban?
Thank you, Mayor Hopewell. As I've been studying this, it seems to me that with 2 lanes going, 2 lanes going around the roundabout, going from north onto Ransom, that's not going to really slow traffic down to 15 miles an hour for people who really want to move along. And I'm experienced bike riders can handle this, and they have a right to be on the road if they on the street if they choose to be, and they have a right to go through the roundabout if they choose to do that. So this design isn't the safest for them with a double lane on the northwest quadrant of the roundabout. I know compromises and adjustments have been made that concern a lot of things that have been brought up and a few things that haven't been discussed publicly. One of them being access to the property that is currently owned by the land bank, I guess, or the city. That's the former
KTS property?
the
one to the south?
silo manufacturing plant. They are there on the southeast corner of the area. So a lot of things are in this design reflect the need to keep that property attractive to developers, and that's something that's been lost to a lot of the people who talk to me about bicyclists. So I recognize that there's a lot of compromises here that you've already made, and but I still would hope that if this design is approved, that we could include 2 things that would help create a more bicycle-friendly feeling. In a way, this project is maybe I'm starting to lecture instead of asking questions here, aren't I? I've done that now two meetings in a row. So I better get to the point. It would help me a lot to approve this project if there were signage saying that bicyclists have full lane access in the roundabout. Not everybody's going to want to use it. A lot of people will feel safer crossing at the trail points. But for people who are experienced and as motorists get more used to this intersection, they're going to get comfortable with bikes on the roundabout. And if bikes are actually in the road, they're more visible than if they're anywhere else. And see and be seen is the first rule with pedestrians and bicyclists and motorists. So that's a signage change that could be easily incorporated, in my opinion. The other thing is, as for people in the roads, there might be a need to have more on and off ramps. So for people who all of a sudden get to this intersection, especially if it's very busy, all of a sudden will chicken out and say, I'm not going to ride my bike through the roundabout. I need to take the side road. So a way to get onto the trail path without having to jump the curb would be a change that I would welcome. I think with those two changes, those two adjustments, I could vote for this thing. But I think that there's so many compromises that have been made that I know that in 3 years from now, with more sophistication and more experience, we could come up with a different balance of considerations and end up with protected bike lanes on both sides and dispense with special side trails that really treat further the notion that somehow bikes are not supposed to be on the roads. I think we have a great opportunity to show that bicyclists can be on the roads, they have a right to be on the roads, and the motoring traffic needs to come to the realization that they need to drive safely through our city. Speeds on this road, as the design has shown, is still going to be too high. That's my thought about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Those changes.
Just a reminder, this is time to ask questions of staff. We certainly have our opportunity during during our comment time on this item. Are there any other questions for the directors? Commissioner Milzar.
Thank you. Is there any sort of plan or thoughts on, I guess maybe like an after-action review? So, you know, we've got a lot of expectations of slow speeds and safer crossings and sort of, you know, what we anticipate. Obviously, Kalamazoo is not all that accustomed to roundabouts. I wonder just if we had any thoughts of sort of tracking what traffic actually looks like after this happens, and if we'd consider, you know, changing signage at that time or making, you know, those sort of minor adjustments if we find out, you know, traffic isn't being slowed to what we had thought or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the open house idea too? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly education will play a big point of that. One of our plans that we have currently for this project is that when we're done with construction, but prior to opening it to traffic, we want to invite the community, everybody from the neighborhood and the general public to come out for an education session, whereas we'll kind of demonstrate how to navigate a roundabout in a vehicle, how to navigate a roundabout as a pedestrian, and what the recommendations are for bicycle users. So that'd be an interactive kind of collaborative meeting to where the geometry is there, the roadway's there, and you can kind of walk and touch and feel and experience that roundabout without fear of traffic happening at the same time. But I think that's a great point, and certainly we do it across all of our traffic engineering and traffic planning, is that when we make a change or make an upgrade, if you will, to continue to monitor that area and see what future changes or additional changes may be needed. And I think that plays a big point in our plan to future improvements along the Ransom corridor. So I think we'll certainly be there, certainly looking at future improvements as we work throughout this entire neighborhood and this entire plan. Thank you.
Commissioner Sykes.
And I'm going to apologize in advance if this was covered at our last meeting for missing the last meeting, so it's really under the weather. But so maybe you can help me understand. I've seen videos of, I'm sure we've all seen them, right, of what a roundabout looks like when there are protected bike lanes in the roundabout incorporated into it. And so I guess my question is, what is our limitation there, and why is that something that's not being proposed? Why is it something that we can't consider, I guess?
So our engineers, we always design the standards. Just like an electrician will wire a house to a certain code or a certain standard, our engineers follow a set of standards. We have three main standards. One's a federal highway design guidelines. Another guideline is our AASHTO Green Book, which is the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. Our other guidance document that we really focus on urban design is the NACTO standards, which is similar to AASHTO, but it's focused more for urban design. Following those standards, we would not be recommended to put bike lanes into the roundabout at these traffic volumes, at this 17,000 vehicles per day. And a lot of that has to do with the geometry and the configuration. Even if we have the protected bike lanes in the roundabout, we still have to cross the vehicles through that bike path. So even if there was a protected, concrete shielded bike path within that roundabout, those cars, as they're making their decisions on which way they're going to go, east, north, south, they're then going to have to cross another point of conflict with a bike user. So with these volumes, even the protected lanes aren't recommended. We're not recommending putting those conflicting movements together.
And just to clarify, make sure I'm getting it right, it's because we don't want to increase the number of intersections, crossings, if you will.
Yeah, it has to do with, safety and risk. We want to minimize the risk and enhance safety as much as we can. Certainly, bicyclists are, legal street users. They're allowed to be in there. That's fine. But in accordance with the design manuals, we want to give them a safe haven, a place to get out, and a place to cross safely. Where none of the manuals would recommend putting those bikes into that roundabout.
And also, the reason they were never planned there to begin with is, again, through the community input that we received, people said put the bike lanes on North Street. And so without having kind of that direction from the community saying put bike lanes on Ransom Street, where would the bike lanes go? So it's kind of just understanding what the community was asking for since 1998, putting the bike lanes on North Street. And so that's where we've tried to continue to accommodate those bike lanes. If the citizen comments were to change and we were to, when we go back to the North Side neighborhood and we talk about that Ransom corridor, and we start to hear that protected bike lanes on the Ransom corridor are really important to the neighborhood, then we will absolutely look back at this project and see how we can accommodate bike lanes through the roundabout and on the Ransom corridor. But right now, that's not
a priority. I guess I'm going to be honest. I think that means that I misunderstood our intention for complete streets when we talked about this prior, because. And it's totally possible, right? That's on me. Probably likely, actually. My understanding was that as we develop, as we are fixing up streets, that every single portion of roadway that we fix up will include lanes, space for all types of users. That's not something we need to collect more citizen input on, because we've already had those conversations and we've made the decision about complete streets. I guess that's sort of my oversimplified way of looking at it, and yeah.
So complete streets means absolutely yes. We are looking at these streets for every single user, but not every street gets a bike lane. That's not what that means necessarily. It means we decide which streets are the best for bike infrastructure based on volumes of traffic. It doesn't mean we're not looking at the most safest infrastructure for pedestrians, because we absolutely are. By changing from a signalized intersection to a roundabout, we're reducing crashes by 90%. We're reducing conflicts from 32 to 8. This is 100% a complete streets project by trying to be sure that we are creating the safest infrastructure possible for everyone who will interact with this space.
That's awesome. One other question, and then I'll shut up. I apologize. Is there anything being built into this that would slow down traffic prior to the roundabout, and I only ask this question for that stretch of Gull Road coming down. And sometimes people slow down too late and take a hard corner. And if that's where we're going to have bikers and whatnot crossing, is there something right before that to slow people down a little bit more?
So there is a little bit of a road diet going on. We reduced 4 lanes. We're down to 3 lanes now. We have that center left that extends beyond the bridge. We would have liked to extend this median that you see kind of in the middle there. We would have loved for that to go all the way to the east, all the way across the bridge, and all the way up into the corridor. Our challenges with that were turning movements and continuing to support local businesses that are already existing, that are already established in the neighborhood. We've got truck movements that have to come right off the bridge into an existing facility, and we've got to have a room for that to happen. We also have an existing bridge with very limited geometry and very limited structural abilities. We cannot increase the dead load on that bridge, and we cannot change any of the geometry or structure of that bridge due to the fact that it's a post-tension precast bridge section. It doesn't really give us a lot of opportunity to make a lot of changes. So we had some pretty tight design constraints when we came into this. We're really trying to, yes, slow the traffic down, and we're doing so with a lot of road diet type principles. Another feature that you can see in the changes with North Street is that with right in, right outs, we're bringing those medians now really close into the wheel path. That's going to be kind of your first indication as a driver that you're going to start to feel things narrow in on you. Another thing that we're doing with the roundabout, as a driver, as you look into your field of vision ahead of you, you're going to see some fixed geometry that's that roundabout itself. So people don't necessarily like to speed into fixed objects. So that's going to be the first indication that you should start slowing down. Again, the signs and everything saying roundabout ahead, 15 miles an hour. There's extensive signing that's going on with this project. So I'm not going to say that we're never going to have a speeder again, but there are structural changes made to this roadway cross section that really should drive home the message to that driver psychology to say you need to slow down. There's something ahead that's changing.
Are rumble strips possible? Or is that a silly?
We don't have any rumble strips in the
No.
design right now.
Okay, just a question. Thank you very much for explaining it so thoroughly. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Sykes. Are there other commissioners' questions of commissioners that haven't had a chance yet? Commissioner Urban?
Well, I'm going to try again, this time ask a question instead of talking. Would the city designers accept a change in the details to allow for more off and on ramps for bicyclists that are on the road around this roundabout? Is that something that could be incorporated in the layout of the curbing?
I think we definitely can talk to the engineers regarding an on-ramp that may be closer to the entrance of the roundabout. That's what you're considering? Yeah, I think we can certainly look into that.
Okay. Okay, good. Then the second question I have for you is would you be able to, would you consider incorporating signage that reminds bicyclists that they do have access to full lanes? Not necessarily if they're required to use it, but thinking about visibility and these kinds of things. I would like to hear how you react to that.
But I think we're open to any kind of signage change that would enhance safety. I think if I'm understanding the specific language of the sign that you're requesting, that sign is not currently in the Uniform Traffic Code, and it sounds a little bit like the language would be in violation of the Motor Vehicle Code. So without trying to design a sign up here and understand whether or not that's going to be acceptable or in accordance with all the laws and regulations, I think we would say we are open to hear about that. We're open to go through the process. If there's something needed, say a resolution that would give us the authority to have that sign, I think we're open to that. I think we definitely would consider those routes, but I can't answer tonight whether or not a specific sign can be put up.
Thank you. I think you're absolutely on safe ground saying that further work would be needed, because I don't think it's in the Michigan code now, although I was told that at one time it was. So then we have to find out, well, why was it taken out? So there's some research to be done there, but I'm really pleased to hear that you're at least open to others making some effort to explore that. Thank you.
Other questions, Commissioners? Thank you, Directors.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience wanting to comment on this item, please step to the podium. You will have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Jack Price, live in the Eastwood area, Center Street. I apologize for not having been to any of the earlier meetings. I was not aware of them until after the meetings had happened, so it's a little hard to be there and make any comments. I will say that initially, when the Sprinkle Road roundabouts were proposed, I was against them, but not having driven them for several years, I feel that they are an improvement over the traffic the way it was. So I think that a roundabout here at this location will probably be an improvement to the traffic handling there. Until tonight, I had not had an opportunity to see that it looks like the westbound traffic will be maintained as 2 lanes through the roundabout. Am I correct on that? Okay. That was one of my concerns, is that 2 lanes are going to be merged to 1 lane and be really a bottleneck through that area. The comments were made about they considered the trucks and buses and being able to go through the roundabout. I hope that the roundabout is big enough. My concern is that you keep talking about traffic calming, and that I understand is a concern because traffic does go fairly fast through there. But the Kalamazoo County Road Commission tried traffic calming at 12th Street and Millam Road, intentionally making the roundabout so small that you can almost not get a bus or semi-truck through that roundabout without traffic coming to a standstill. That's a disaster. And with a high volume of traffic coming through this roundabout every day, I hope that the roundabout's big enough to accommodate the vehicles without making a real mess out of things. The other thing, they mentioned they're going to put in a new generation LED lights. I would certainly hope that they're the newer style, full cutoff, down pointing only lights that do not intrude and create light pollution around and about the area. If the poles are high enough, you have a big enough footprint that it lights up the road very nicely, but it does not intrude, cause glaring, and cause issues in the neighborhood. Again, the full cutoff light is a much preferred light. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
My name is Jim Ferner. I live in Kalamazoo Township. My concerns with this design is that overall speed, goal, ransom, and pitcher is not taken into account. It's going 40 to 45 in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. One thing that will definitely slow that speed is a road diet. We're so hesitant to talk about the elephant in the room, which means slowing the traffic. How much longer is it going to take us at 30 miles an hour versus 40 to 45? At 40 to 45, you have less than a 20% chance of living getting hit by a car if you're a bicyclist or a pedestrian. And that's what this plan should be about. It shouldn't be about a car access plan. It should set the template for complete streets. When I asked if this plan went to the Planning Commission, the answer was no, we don't have a complete streets policy yet. Get her done. I'm afraid that that's not safe for bicycles. The proposed development in this area of which this is being built for, and the sewer and water infrastructure is being put in the next 10, 15 years is going to create more people in more dense housing, working at jobs in the area, going shopping in the area, visiting friends. How are they going to be accommodated by streets that are still going pretty fast? You want to get it down? Road diet it. Put protected bike lanes on those streets. Just because North Street's been on the plan since 1998, excuse me, bicycle master plan, where's the car master plan? Cars go everywhere. Why aren't bikes allowed to go everywhere? We're talking about changing the city, changing the paradigm, the mindset. If you can't get this thing slowed down, don't even talk about a roundabout, because 2 lanes of traffic westbound is not going to slow that traffic. It's problematic for pedestrians and cyclists crossing a roundabout. Number one, cyclists riding a bike in a crosswalk doesn't have the protection that a pedestrian does. Number two, if the cars are getting ready to, if the pedestrian crosswalk is too close to the roundabout and the cars are getting ready to look left like they usually do to get into that roundabout, they're not paying attention to people coming from the right or even people that are trying to cross that roundabout. So move those crosswalks back at least a full car length before the roundabout begins. This multi-use path, shared use path, it still doesn't negate the fact that people are going to use the existing KRVT crossing. And then what happens? Well, it's been said that they can't put it there because of engineering, design constraints. I've driven back and forth on there all the time. You can see a light on a mast, which is going to be at least 14 feet high, should be more. Easy. Just put the thing on the side. You don't have to put it on the bridge, and have it pedestrian actuated. I can't cover as many points as were brought up in the previous 30-minute presentations in 4 minutes, but just let it be known that this is a bad way to start a complete streets project, is putting bicycles and pedestrians in a crosswalk. Talked to NACTO today several times by email. They said there's no standards for bike lanes around a roundabout. I said, how do you get the process started? They said they look to their member organizations and see what they're doing on the ground.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Let me try this again. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Zach Lasser. I live in the city of Kalamazoo. First off, I want to say that it's great that we've had development in that area. I know a couple of them are sitting back here, and Life EMS in that area, and also People's Food Co-op, and Bell's has grown substantially even more. I think it's great that there's been development in that area, and I think that's part of what's necessitating this. Also, cut through traffic. I know when I went and looked at Herb's development, I walked across the street from there, and I was almost hit by a car. So I recognize that that intersection does need change. I'm also primarily a bicyclist. I don't own a car. I do rent a car on occasion, and nice ringtone, whoever. And I recognize that, you know, on all of those aspects, as a pedestrian, as a bicyclist, and as a car, you know, someone that drives a car on occasion, that intersection does need some sort of change. And I think that this is a lot better than what it used to be. I think right now what we have is very unsafe for all of those. I think this accommodates bicycle traffic as best as it can. I think it accommodates pedestrian traffic as best as it can, and it accommodates vehicle traffic as best as it can. I am a little concerned, and it's maybe my ignorance, and I should have asked this before. I hate bringing up things last minute. But it was just thinking to me as I was looking at it on Google Maps, what about the trains that go through? Those often cause substantial traffic backups, especially the freight trains that sometimes stop and go in reverse and pull forward again. And I would just, you know, I don't know anything about traffic design or how traffic behaves in masses, and I know you guys have experts on that. And I would just like to hear how that would impact a traffic circle with the train crossings being 1 block south of this and 2 blocks west of it. And you know, I'm just concerned about how that would impact things, but I know the city can do nothing to control the train traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Paul Selden. I'm a volunteer in a lot of bicycle-related activities in town, and sorry for coming up to speed on this whole issue of roundabouts kind of late in the game, but I suspect a lot of us are in the same boat. As I learned about it, I tried to keep track of the tidbits of information I learned, many of which I felt were quite illuminating. And I've sent those to you in the form of a 6-page, I call it a compendium. Take a look and see if some of that might give you reasons to think more deeply about the project. As I was going over that very same information, I learned some things. I don't admit at all to be an expert at this subject, even though I am the director of road safety for the Kalamazoo Bicycle Club. But let's face it, this is a new kind of thing for the community. It's a new kind of thing for people who have the passion and the expertise that many of our members of the audience are bringing to the subject tonight, and who have already commented on aspects you might not have expected to hear about. Lighting, as an example. I learned that it's a key factor in whether bicycles will be visible during conditions of poor visibility. Normal use, bad weather, dark, that kind of thing. But this project incorporates that. That's just one example of ideas that could come forth, a couple of which Commissioner Urban mentioned, and which I heartily endorse. Bikes can use the roadway, and many of the on-road bicyclists are going to prefer to ride through the roundabout, especially when they feel comfortable doing so. Maybe the traffic will be a little lighter, but they're going to need some cooperation from motorists. They're going to need cooperation in the form of allowing them to merge. Some motorists, we all know, feel that bicyclists don't have the right to use the road. The kind of sign that's being discussed is in use in many other states. It is in the Federal Highway Administration's Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and it was, as I learned today from the state's expert on the subject, Josh DeBruin in MDOT, it was part of the Michigan manual. I believe the city has the wherewithal. This is just an opinion. Attorney Robinson would probably have to do some checking on this, but I believe just as it had the authority to create the 5-foot passing ordinance, it may have the authority to create its own ordinance that applies to this situation where bikes and motorists cannot physically operate side by side with all the opportunities for the points of conflict that you have all pointed out, especially right hook turns. Think about that. A bicycle trying to negotiate the roundabout being cut off by a car hooking to make a right turn. The roundabout is nothing but right turns after you enter it. The other aspect is it's not pointed out clearly on the drawings that I've been privy to so far, but opportunities to get onto the road and off of the road onto the KRVT multi-use path would be greatly appreciated. I think the point is this: the neighborhood's had its chance to comment, maybe by taking a little pause and allow.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to address this item? Good evening, sir.
It's Herb Ayers. I'm a resident at 512 East North Street, about a block from the roundabout. I've lived there for 6 years. Shop at the co-op. I'm aware of the dangers of crossing as it exists now at Ransom and Harrison. I'm here to speak in favor of the roundabout. I would urge the commission to approve this. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be better. It'll be much better. It'll be possibly 90% better. It feels like, and I do ride a bike, whenever I head downtown, I would never dream of going on Ransom. I understand the complete road upgrades that are inclusive of pedestrians and bicycles and cars, but nobody in their right mind is going to go downtown on Ransom now, or even if it's quieted with 17,000 cars, when you have the option to go north. When I go downtown, I always head to north to Pitcher or Porter and head south. I even do that with a car. People take selective pathways that are safe, less congested, and I'm assuming bicyclists do the same. I totally agree. I'm a bicyclist. I totally agree that bikes should be on the road, but they have to use common sense too. One thing that is a little irritating is that I've started to do this process 3 years ago. The city's been working on it. Where was the interest until we get right down to the shovel in the ground and the brakes get slammed on, no pun intended, for questions? I went to all 3 of last year's public forums. I didn't see any commissioners there. If you were there, I apologize, but I didn't see anybody there then. Very few outside of the neighborhood people showed up. They vetted it, they worked hard. You have a staff that's giving you input. You have engineers from the outside contractors that have given you input. They're following the code that exists for bikes now. And I just hope that you'll approve it and move forward. I think it'll be a real asset to this end of town, not to mention all the things that'll be underground that are important to this end of the neighborhood: sewer, water, and other utilities. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wanting to address the commission this evening? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ernie Clapp. I live in the Vine neighborhood. I've traveled this intersection many, many times. In fact, 2 or 3 times a day. My concern is, you know, nobody ever wants to rub bumpers with another car. Nobody wants to rub bumpers with a bicycle. And so when you put a bicycle and a car together, hopefully we can coexist and get along. Do a little plan like this costs a few bucks, and it's made by people that pay taxes, buy licenses, buy fuel. So we want to make sure that nobody gets hurt. My big concern is I do not want to ever deal with a bicyclist or another vehicle where I hurt either them or they hurt me. A little respect goes a long ways, and I don't see that with both automobile traffic or bigger traffic and bicycle traffic. I don't see the respect there that we used to have. So hopefully this thing will go through. We need to move the traffic safely. We need to move the bicycles safely so nobody gets hurt. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wanting to address the commission? Seeing no one. Commissioners, requested action is a motion to approve the contract and funds transfer, and authorize the city manager to sign on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Anderson, supported by Commissioner Knott. We're in commissioners' discussion. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Interesting situation. I don't think we have had as much conversation about any road project in the entire time I've been aware of road projects in the city of Kalamazoo. It's just interesting the amount of attention that this is getting. And the first thing I'd like to say is that I recognize that this has been a multi-year project, and in my opinion, considering all the limitations and the circumstances and the expectations and the use that any street gets, that Directors Baker and Kick have hit a home run on this. I can't give them really more thanks and really more recognition for the amount of time that has gone into this, into design, redesign, community input, thoughtful re-engineering, evaluation of standards and how it works here. To me, home run. Thank you for your work. I really appreciate it so much. I am certain that there will be no road work that is done that makes everybody happy. And I also believe that a corner has been turned in Kalamazoo, and there is a great deal more attention being given to non-motorized transportation, and traffic. Vastly more than has occurred in the past. It's interesting when you look at this, and I think about this as those of us sit up here who represent all constituents in Kalamazoo, people who drive trucks, people that drive cars, people that ride bikes, people that go to school in school buses, people that provide jobs to us and deliver groceries to our stores. All those vehicles that share, ways to get around in the city and try to share them in a way that provides safety to the most vulnerable components of that crew that's using transportation, which is people walking, people on bikes. And when you do look at best practices and family-friendly, I will say, ways for non-motorized transportation folks to get around, sometimes that means there is a grid of safe bike routes, that bike routes do not always go through the middle of every intersection that happens to have 17,000 or 20,000 cars going through it. And that is really driven by this idea of safety. I've spent a lot of time on CATS, which is our Countywide Transportation Planning Authority, and it's interesting because I see a parallel that we've been talking for some years about truck routes. And the fact that we don't have good truck routes, we've even talked about that here in the city of Kalamazoo. And this fact that despite complete streets, there is a great deal of paved area that we don't want trucks on in Kalamazoo. And so we're talking across jurisdictions about where are commercial corridors where we're going to design specifically for truck traffic, where might that be in the future, and how does that overlay on our transportation infrastructure? Some streets might say, not a truck route. Similarly, as we're doing this planning, the way I see it, the way it seems to be happening in Copenhagen or Madison, Wisconsin, or even Portland, where I've spent a lot of time, is that there are going to be designated routes which are well recognized to make sure that we do have what I will describe as maybe not professional bike riders all the time who might be willing to take the risk and go anywhere, but family safe, practical, life-safe bike routes that we identify where people are not limited from getting places. And I think this really takes a step in trying to recognize that as well. I appreciate all the work, I appreciate all the input, and I'm going to be very, very happy to be voting finally to support this contract that's in front of us so that we can get this work done.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other Commissioner comments? I saw Vice Mayor, he hasn't had a chance to comment on this issue, so I'm going to have him go.
Well, I would just like to say, I think that Commissioner Anderson summed it up in a very wonderful way, and I agree with everything he said. I think that this is an excellent step forward, and I commend Mr. Baker and Ms. Kick for the excellent work that they've done.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Milzart.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to hopefully succinctly summarize a few points. I will be voting yes on this tonight. At the very least, I do hope we just look at that North Street bike route and look at doing a change order for the on-off ramps to the mixed-use trail. I mean, since that's what we're planning to do anyway, I'd hope we could do that. And then in addition, I do think it's worth considering similar change orders to do some closer to the roundabout ramps onto the mixed use. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sykes.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible with my comments. And I just want to be clear, I will be supporting this this evening. And I do greatly appreciate the work. I can tell, and I know a lot of work and thought and planning has gone into this project, and I'm grateful for that, the time and energy that went into it. I do just want to say I've got a couple of thoughts that I want to say out loud and just sort of put on the table as we move forward in the future. And there are two things. One is that I do think that there is some validity to the idea that if we had designated bike lanes in literally every roadway, it has a psychological impact on our drivers. I do, always take into consideration everybody in the community and everybody's needs and whatnot. I try to look at it from a power perspective, for better or for worse. It's just what I like to do. And in this instance, whenever we have these conversations, I have this feeling that, bikers have less power, if you will, when they're on the roadway with cars. And so wanting to account for that, understanding and having seen drivers, drive with the sort of air that bikers don't belong there, why don't you get on the sidewalks, get out of the way. So I know that's a thing that folks encounter. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't bike often. I'm not a fan, I should be, I'm sorry. And so I really do think that as we move forward, we should at least consider including lanes everywhere, whether they're protected or just stripes, because, again, I think our drivers need to get the message that bikers are welcome on all our roadways and belong there, and that they need to be looking for them as well. There's a book, and I can't remember, I feel like Jim and I talked about this before, and I hope it's the same book that I'm thinking. I was trying to look it up on my phone, but Happy Cities. And I think a lot of my perspective on this comes from that book. So I don't want to limit ourselves to just designated bikeways. I would love to see us move to a situation where we have lanes for bikes on every road that a car travels on, and that's for the future, but that's sort of my rambly 2 cents.
Thank you, Commissioners. Other comments? Commissioner Urban?
This is, the last two weeks have been pretty intense on this topic, and I've gone around and around on this. I think with the assurance, and at least the willingness to consider the questions that I raised with you regarding off and on ramps, and willingness to explore what it would take to have that signage in there. We were 90% there before, that makes it 95% now. Given all the compromises that have been made to get to this point, we don't want to delay this project another year, because there's crashes that can go on in the next year that we could have avoided by improving the design that we have here now. This is so much different from the way things have been in this area. We'll be learning a lot from observing, as Commissioner Mozarek said, and after action reviews here and data gathering, what the appetite is for more work like this, and how it can be, details of this design can be adjusted over time, and also experience that can be applied to future projects. So being practical about this, I've concluded that I'm going to vote for this because I think we've come a long way in the last 2 weeks and a long way in the last year. So thanks to your hard work, James and Rebecca. I truly appreciate your intense and caring attitude towards this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Other comments? Just real quick, you know where I stand. My opinion hasn't changed on why we need to move forward and why I think this has been work that is good. I got a couple concerns with our media that seems to miss some things, are happy to write sensationalized headlines, and then when we do release information about how we've been designated and our community's been looked at from the outside, seem to go dark on that one. So I think that's kind of interesting as well. If we're going to tell the story, let's tell the story and not look for the sensation in the story. So that's one. Two, Commissioners, what I guess concerns me the most is trying to engineer a road from up here. So some of these things that you want or you've been thinking about, these two folks have telephones, you have access to them. And you know, it becomes sort of an interesting thing when we're doing that up here because it could look like I'm trying to make a statement compared to let's get work done. And let's get work done better if we think. I think that Jim's staff and certainly these two individuals are very much open to talking about new signage or all these other things, on-ramps, off-ramps, meeting with you about these issues, and trying to design a road from the dais doesn't really work that well. We've been able to give some input, but I think we have the opportunity and have had that opportunity for 2 weeks now. As some of you have said, you've gotten all this input. You call this guy and you say, hey, I want to meet with staff, he's going to do it, no matter when, probably in the evening time. And I think we know that. So, you know, I get uncomfortable with that. I've seen it over the years where, well, let's do this and let's change this. I'm no engineer. I'm no expert on cycling. And we have a whole bunch of work. We approved things tonight that most of us aren't experts at, and probably if, you know, sewer going in and for rock equipment, I don't, you know, why rock? Why not somebody else? Maybe we should look at all RFPs and do the process ourselves and all of that. There's things that we have to depend on our experts for. Never do I say you don't question people outright, but when we're designing things, I think when we're trying to create a roadway that I don't, and most of us don't have expertise, that's an interesting thing to me, because when I get concerned, you go and do this, then what happens over here? I don't know. I don't know what signage is allowed legally or not. I have no clue. That's not something that I sign up for. But I do try to hold our staff accountable to what we say we believe in our vision and our mission. And so it's just a cautionary note, as at least in regards to especially road projects. I'm not sure that designing them from the dais is the best thing. Clerk Forling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Sykes?
Yes.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney?
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Knott?
Yes.
Commissioner Milzarek?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. G2, Mr. Manager.
Approval of a contract with Moore Strategic Consulting to provide technical consulting for Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo in the amount of $106,200, and approval of the allocation of Foundation for Excellence funds in the amount of $106,200 for the contract.
Anyone in the audience wanting to comment on this item, please step to the podium. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Seeing no one, the requested action, Commissioners, is a motion to approve the contract and funds allocation and authorize the city manager to sign on behalf of the city. Is there a motion? Moved by Commissioner Urban.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Anderson. We are in discussion. One question I have we changed the way motions are? Because all of a sudden there's funds allocations, and is that new? Okay, all right. Just hadn't seen that one before. We're in discussions, Commissioner. Commissioner Knott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll start off by first saying that I understand that this position, this contract is critical to defining the direction of SPK and its needs. So with that disclaimer out there, you know, having read the proposal and then trying to go online and do my own research, you can't find anything online related to more strategic consulting with the exception of a Facebook mention. And so some of my questions are, I guess overarching, I don't have a full understanding what the scope of their work is going to be. Are they just going to be crunching the the Imagine Kalamazoo data? Or are they going to be going back out into the community and asking questions that we've already asked of community members? You know, if that's the case, I'm not in favor of duplicating the process, but you know, the 4-page document and then the 27-page document really has no meat on the bones in terms of their activities. And then when you look at the number of hours per staff person, as well as the cost, albeit it's a discounted rate, I'm wondering what in the world we're getting for $17,000 per month for 6 months. You know, I was in a series of political meetings today with folks that are consultants that write plans to do state level or national level campaigns, and we kind of mused amongst ourselves about this and the lack of detail as well as the dollar amounts attached to a 6-month project such as this. So I'm wondering if someone from the staff has had some conversations with Dr. Moore, if we can get more information about what they're actually going to be doing. I'm also interested in what is the process to cancel the contract if we're not happy with their work. If they get the work done before they hit their $100,000, I mean, is that a set amount, or will they only bill us for work that's completed? I could go on, but I'll pause.
Mr. Manager. Assistant City Manager Lamb has answers to those questions.
Sure. Thank you. I'll get started and try my best to answer them, but if I don't get to all of them, please let me know. In terms of the contract itself, that's my understanding. We're looking at a not to exceed. They have rates that they've provided in the proposal. The intent being that we align, finalize the scope of work. If there's a point where we're not happy with the work, there's normally, in my understanding, there's an opportunity for a clawback and the ability to end the contract. I certainly don't feel like we are committing ourselves to the full amount. I think we're committing ourselves to working with more strategic consulting to get to the product we want. If at any point we feel we're not getting that, then I think we have to reevaluate and look at discontinuing the relationship. In terms of the summary of activities, we've really tried to set the stage for the work that's already been done. I think in the conversations that we've had with the Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo core team, comprised of representatives from Michigan Works, from Lewis Walker Institute, from United Way, from mayor, vice mayor, city staff, we recognize a lot of good work has happened. When it comes to a strategic plan, you look at blending community experience and expertise, local data, best practice. I think through a number of conversations that have been had over 2 or 3 years with regard to shared prosperity, with regard to Imagine Kalamazoo, we feel we've got really good information. How we then take that information, combine it with a local data assessment of both needs and resources, and then continue to look at best practices, but more importantly, how they can become operationalized in Kalamazoo, we're hoping this consultant can kind of pull the pieces together. In addition, we've recently hired Kevin Ford as our Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo coordinator. He'll be working in the Community Development Division at Community Planning and Development. We certainly believe that it's very, very important for Kevin and Dorla to be integral in this work, that they are going to be the staff on the ground that are going to build relationships long term. So we want to make sure we maximize their time, their energy, their building relationships for the long term that I think will allow us to reduce some of the work that would have traditionally been done by a consultant. I can certainly go in and kind of break you into the phases. I'll be kind of going over the proposal. In the beginning, we'll be looking to really give the consultant the best opportunity to understand what work has been done, both the community listening that I've mentioned to you, the identification of priorities within shared prosperity, understanding the work of how we remove barriers to jobs, understanding the work needed to help youth realize their full potential, understanding the work in terms of helping families feel supported and being able to build wealth. We want to make sure that the work that's been done really starts as a foundation, then look to them to help us figure out, in light of these goals and priorities, what are the most impactful actions we can accomplish to really drive the work, to really look at breaking that cycle of poverty. So really the first part of the work is getting the grounding, getting the foundation. They do look to identify a task force, group of people that would go beyond the Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo core team that we've been working on to help set the stage, and then really looking into how do we get these goals and objectives and break them down into very actionable items, and most importantly, how do we hold ourselves accountable to the plan? So not only what is the organization that's going to oversee the work and make sure that it continues, but what's the baseline data and what's the measurements we're going to have from now into the future to make sure that the interventions we've selected are being impactful in what ways, and how do we continue to scale them? So I just gave you a whole lot of information. I'm going to pause there to see if I can be more pointed in following up with your questions.
No, thank you, Director Lamb. I appreciate what you're saying to me. I think overall I'm underwhelmed with their document. You know, the first month or two, depending on what timeline you look at, they're billing us 166 hours. I'd like to see, not micromanage right down to the minute, right? But I mean, the city attorney understands you bill at, every 5 minutes. How are we getting to that? What are they proposing to do other than travel to Kalamazoo and create a steering committee? And so that's the detail that I'm looking for. And I don't see it. And typically when I get proposals, when I have asked for an RFP for consultants, I'm getting more of like, here's what their deliverables are going to be, and here's what the end outcome is going to be. And I'm not seeing that. I can't back into, again, these hours, 166 the first month, 178 coming up a little bit later, and then are they actually worth charging $200 per hour at the discounted rate of 175?
So one of the things I'll clarify, we issued a request for qualifications, and so ultimately our first and foremost goal was to try to find a consultant that we felt best matched the qualification, the experience, the relevance to shared prosperity work. We did ask for a proposal to explain the plan, but I think we went at it from, most importantly, is there a good fit? There's no question I appreciate the need to have very specific deliverables. We want to make sure that there's clarity on both sides, but I see to some extent the work ahead, knowing that we felt through the subcommittee's work that this would be a good fit based on the experience that they bring in terms of asset building and poverty reduction strategies. The work ahead is to take the framework that they gave us, kind of build the foundation, kind of deepen the understanding, do a landscape assessment, begin identifying goals and objectives, and then how it gets implemented under what organizational structure. I think we certainly can work to get to greater specificity. The greatest comfort level was in the qualifications, which is part of the approach for the RFQ.
I'll pass the torch for now.
Okay. Commissioner Sykes?
Yeah, so I'm going to follow up and just acknowledge that I know that in the past, you know, I've questioned whether or not we need to hire outside consultant. I think, you know, my colleagues, City Manager Ritzma, you, Laura, have given me a good understanding of why we need a consultant. So I want to be clear that my resistance is not to hiring a consultant. But I mean, just to sort of double back to one of Commissioner Knott's comments, and I mean, I've attempted to do my own research on this consulting firm, and there is just no presence. There's no online presence. There's no website that I could find, and maybe you know, you can help me with that. There's no, aside from, there is a Facebook page, and there's one post on this Facebook page from March and one follower, and I'm not seeing them anywhere, right? And it seems like if you've got, you know, this long list of qualifications and all of this work that you've done, it seems like you would have more of an online presence. So that's my number one, or not my number one, that's my first sort of resistance to this. So I guess my question to you is, you know, how are we getting to a place where we feel really comfortable with their qualifications, with their history, the work that they've done, the assertion that they're good at things like poverty reduction, and where do we find that at? I need more. I need more than, and I understand we have had information provided to us. I need more, I guess.
So I can share some of the feedback and some of the information that we went through as a subcommittee scoring the two proposals that were received. I think certainly within the proposal there are sort of pages for every staff person that is involved in the project. I think if you look at the two proposals that we were comparing, certainly on the more strategic consulting, we felt there was a very strong match. One staff person in particular has had a very strong role in poverty reduction strategies and asset building work that seemed to align very well with some of the community wealth building work that we're taking on. Additionally, there was certainly mention that more strategic consulting just helped lead the greater Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, United Way's work in reframing their granting and their giving strategy. So they've been doing quite a bit of work here locally through that. What we went through in addition was going through and checking references, I think on both sides. Although there were positive references on both sides, the more consulting references were particularly positive and felt very much that you had sort of innovative thinking, creative thinking, as opposed to the other firm, which was talked more about in terms of kind of safe and sort of proficient or solid, if you will. I think between the two firms, there was a feeling that David Moore and Strategic Consulting really were mobilizing communities to action. On the other firm, there was a feeling that it focused quite a bit on policy. Now we understand policy plays a role. So really, in going through the proposals, it was reviewing the staff qualifications, it was reviewing the examples that they provided, it was going through and doing the reference checks, it was having conversations with folks that have worked with them locally. With those pieces of information, it was felt that they were the top choice, the recommendation to go forward. I will say we did start with the premise of if we don't feel we've got a good firm here to work with, we can start over, we can look at Plan B. And based on the folks we assembled, there was a feeling that more Strategic Consulting could provide us the assistance that we need to get us where we want to go.
A follow-up question, how many folks in our community have worked with them? You said folks in our
So I
community?
know in the conversation or in the work they did with United Way, there was a very, very extensive community process. I can say I can recall going to a couple of sessions. So their contract was with United Way, but in that work there was some broad outreach that was done, which involved a lot of organizations.
What was the project, if you don't mind me asking?
It's basically was their strategic visioning, it was their realignment, their sort of reframing of how they do their giving. They went through, identified indicators for the community, goals for the community. Certainly, if doing online research, if you were to pull up United Way's website and look at all of their goals and indicators, that would be a product of more Strategic Consulting's work.
Okay, thank you.
I think Vice Mayor was next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We all know this is an important work. It's a critical work, and we want to do it right. And we have a tremendous opportunity here that we've never had before. Because now we have some resources that we can put into this. And what we're looking at is to look at the extremely difficult task of trying to maybe not end, but dramatically impact intergenerational poverty in our community, which is formidable. So we're not going to get there by 8 of us meeting every Friday morning as we have done for the last 2 years. We need to widen that circle. We need to work with some people who have had experience in working with other communities for transformative change, because that's what we're looking for, transformative change. Not just another program, not just add to some of the wonderful things that are happening already, but a dramatic change that is really going to impact and change the way people are living in this community. So we looked around and we found several different ones around the country, some of them who were doing international kinds of things. But the United Way told us that they've had really good experience with the Moore Consulting Group. So we invited them and we invited others to apply, and they applied. And it seems to me that the experience that they've had in working with other groups will be what we need here. We don't need somebody to go out and interview people in the community. We've done that. But what we do need to do is get community buy-in to what we're going to do to go forward. And that's one of the things that they seem to excel in from what they've done in other communities. What we really need is somebody to help us develop a process to get to a strategic plan which is going to have a transformative effect in the community. And I imagine we could spend another 6 months looking for another consulting group, but I think that we have enough work already done that with this group, we can move this project forward and get to where we really want to go, dramatic changes in people's lives.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Urban.
Thank you, Mayor Hopewell. Well, as I recall, you were saying that of all the requests that were sent out, we got 2 responses. One respondent was pretty much a boilerplate type of response. That's my term. And the other one showed some engagement and some imagination. And also we have some local references of people that we work with regularly who live in this community or work in this community that know this Dr. Moore. So it seems like this is the best chance we have right now, and this is work that's very important that we get started soon because people want to see results. Want to see the beginning of results and a very firm plan. Now, I'm sure what's been done with SPK so far, we've taken it as far as we can with being a non-city staff responsibility. Basically, the commissioners and people that they've been able to get together have done this work so far. Now we have a chance to turn this back to being done through the administration. That's a big step forward. I think it's fine for us to go ahead with this recommendation, and I plan to vote for it with the understanding that it's okay for us to be skeptical. It's okay for us to ask hard questions. In fact, everywhere I've worked, I responded best when my bosses asked me hard questions. It really made me rise up. And I think we ought to be able to do the same with Dr. Moore. And if we see good response in the first month or so, we'll know what kind of capabilities are there. If we like what we see, we continue. If we don't, I don't see any necessity to drag it out. We can start fresh with somebody else. We did that with the last time we hired a city manager, and boy, are we glad we did it. So we have precedent. We can do that, right? So with that understanding that you can expect for us to be skeptical, and I encourage you to be rigorous, I think we can go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other comments? Hearing none, Clerk Borland, please call the roll.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Mr. Clerk, hang on, Commissioner Sykes. Okay, you can continue.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Knott.
Yes.
Commissioner Milzarek.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
No.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. We are now at City Manager's report. You have a report this evening?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Attorney? Mr. Clerk?
No, sir.
I do want to comment about nice job on an election. I don't know that we've gotten to say that.
Thank you.
Appreciate your hard work on that, so thank you. We're now at citizens' comment. Any citizen wanting to comment to the commission on any item this evening, please step to the podium. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city.
Are you through with new business? This is where
Yeah, that's
Okay,
citizens'
thank you.
comments.
You move so quickly here, you're so skilled at these meetings, Mr. Hopewell. Yes, that's
been
my
almost 2
20
hours, not
seconds into
quickly.
it, isn't it? Mayor, Commissioners, allow me to congratulate you on achieving the League of
Sir, we need
American...
your name and...
Oh, Paul
and where
Selden,
you're at, or
resident of Portage, and volunteer in many bicycling activities in town. Thank you for reminding me of protocol. Because I was so excited to come up here and congratulate you, all of that formality totally escaped my mind. Congratulations on achieving the bronze level, bicycle friendly community award from the League of American Bicyclists. That's fantastic. I myself, addressing the mayor's earlier comments, and some frustration noted there with the process and so forth of media releases, I only found out about this secondhand, by the way. I didn't get the memo. So maybe I'm belated in my congratulations, but they are sincere because, and I say this to staff and throughout the city at all levels and the leadership of the city, you are doing a fantastic job in making the community more bicycle friendly. That's evidenced in your comments tonight too, by the way. My comments, I'm not going back to old business here, were the product of not being brought into the process until I saw that very press release that I think you're referring to, which was rather negative and divisive in tone. And so as part of the bike-friendly community process, things like a citizens committee get formed where stakeholders can give advice who may be outside the immediate confines of the city residents. And because this whole subject is rather new, there is reason to include stakeholders, and I'll say, like myself, because after all, I'm the founder of Bike Friendly Kalamazoo and have worked with many of you on a number of issues over a number of years. And you know we're sincere and attempting to do a good job in providing the kind of advice that we have, albeit some of it seems at the last minute, for which I apologize, but I couldn't do anything about. I worked pretty hard the last couple of days just to get that compendium to you, and I haven't even had a chance to release it to media yet, but I will, so that we can all learn together. It is posted on the Bike Friendly Kalamazoo website. So in stating what I just said, I'd like you to consider some of the items that were brought up by the commissioners tonight. And I don't know if this is the appropriate time or place to make a formal motion to study the concept of that so-called bikes may use full lane sign. This may not be the time. I consider it new business and appropriate for this level of comment when I'm making these comments right now. But I want to cap it all off by saying keep up the great work. I've enjoyed working with each of you. I've found you've all been very accessible, not to mention pleasant to talk with. And I say that to staff as well. I wish I could mention them all by name, but over the years there have been too many to do that. But many of them are in this room right now. So again, congratulations, keep up the great work, and let's continue that process for all it implies.
Thank you, sir. Next, please. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Zachary Lassiter, and I live in the city of Kalamazoo. First off, I want to say this is likely going to be one of the things that some of you disagree with me on. I consider most of you friends, and I hope that this does not impact our friendship, and I hope that you guys realize that this isn't me attacking anyone personally or you as a group personally, but looking at if something that has been done by this commission for years, likely before most of you have been on it, is appropriate and legal. Recently, I saw an investigative reporting piece by Ken Kolker at Wood TV 8. It was about closed-door meetings at the city of Grand Rapids that are held just below the quorum level. At these meetings, they discuss upcoming actions that will be taken by the city commission. In Grand Rapids, these meetings are called 3-on-1s or ward briefings. I've emailed you each a copy of the investigative piece by Ken Kolker. This came to my attention as Commissioner Urban and others have brought up that you as a commission meet in what you call small groups just under quorum, which are, I don't know what is discussed in these meetings. I don't know anything about these meetings other than they exist. In Wood TV's news article, they state that these may be illegal. They cite a 1998 Court of Appeals order in the case of Booth Newspapers versus Wyoming City Council. The court in its order writes, to accept the City Council's suggestion that a public body can avoid the Open Meetings Act by deliberately dividing itself into groups of less than quorum and still deliberate on public policy would circumvent the legislative principles as well as the overall objective of the Open Meeting Act to promote openness and accountability in government. When it ruled similar meetings held by the Wyoming City Council were in violation of the Open Meetings Act and found these meetings were designed to avoid the Open Meetings Act, and that's a quote, designed to avoid the Open Meetings Act. I've emailed you all a full copy of that court's order. I'm not a legal expert, however, a former Grand Rapids city attorney and an attorney for the Michigan Press Association agree that meetings of commissioners that are under quorum are illegal. The Michigan Municipal League, which Mayor Hopewell is a board member of, also advises against what it calls, quote, sub-quorum meetings, according to the same article by Ken Kolker. I would like to know, is there deliberation or discussion on potential actions the City Commission may be taking that impact public policy, city ordinances, resolutions, or other things that are in the public interest? Should these discussions not be held and open like Commissioner Urban has suggested at other times? If we are discussing if after discussing this with your attorney, you decide that the current meetings are legal, there's something else you should consider. At a time when distrust in government is at an all-time high, even causing some of you to express concern how decisions have been made by this commission and other government bodies, is it not more important for the public to be able to know the discussion, reasons, and information the decisions that impact their lives are based off from? I'm going to leave you with a few quotes. Let the people know the facts, and the country will be safe. President Abraham Lincoln. The very word of secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are as people inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. President Abraham Lincoln. And the last one, most ironically, when information which properly belongs to the public is systematically withheld by those in power, the people soon become ignorant of their own affairs, distrustful of those who manage them, and eventually incapable of determining their own destinies. President Richard Nixon. That one's pretty ironic, if you ask me. I look forward to the city having discussion on having meetings that are open and accessible to the public on things that will interest them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission this evening? Good evening, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Jack Price, resident of Kalamazoo. As long as the topic of street lighting was brought up earlier, I'd like to address that on a broader scope, addressing all street lighting in the city of Kalamazoo. Particularly the streets lights in the downtown area, what I call the so-called street lights that are decorative, that point sideways and up instead of down where the streets are. My understanding of street lights would be to point lights at the street, not up into the sky and sideways. The decorative lights, as you drive through the street, tend to put a glare in your face, especially under inclement weather with snow, rain. It makes a terrible glare. It's hard to see the streets. Not only that, adding into the pollution of the night sky. If you've looked up the night sky lately, it's hard to see things that you used to see when you were much younger because of all the light pollution we have. The LED lights, various studies have been done. A full cutoff light fixture that points down only is much more effective lighting the street. Obviously, it points this light down at the streets where the streets are. Studies have also shown that a temperature rating of 3000 K or less provide a much more natural lighting, much more visually pleasing to people instead of the bright glare, harsh that some of the super bright white lights are. Many of you have noticed if you drive around and see headlights coming at you, the super bright blue lights, they're like 5,000, 6,000 K. It's just glaring and it's hard to see. So street lights of 3,000 K or less are much more effective. I'd like you to consider that in future street lighting as we do around the city, that as we progress toward LED lights and so forth, that we go that direction. There are various studies. Dark Skies International has many studies and promotes the proper type of lighting that's more sky-friendly, light-friendly, people-friendly. So if you'd consider that, we'd appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wanting to address the commission this evening? Seeing no one, we are at commissioners' comments. I'm going to start with Commissioner Sykes since I cut you off earlier. My apologies.
No, no worries at all. Couple things. First, I want to appreciate the gentleman's comments on light pollution. That's not something that I've ever really been familiar with, but I have a fiance who would greatly appreciate it having come up, as he is a member of some planetary society somewhere. I don't know. So he would be very grateful. He's me excited to hear that light pollution came up tonight. So thank you. Back to the consultant that we have voted to hire for SBK. And I say this with the utmost respect for my colleagues, because you are all incredibly smart and oftentimes smarter than I am. But I want to say I am more than skeptical. I'm deeply uncomfortable. I hate to keep being the one, with all of this, with SBK, with the foundation, with this funding, with this aspirational goal, this goal to end generational poverty. I hate to keep being the one to say, something doesn't feel right again. But I hope that we continue to keep our eyes on the end goal. I hope that we have I hope we give enough respect to the fact that everybody who works as a consultant, or everybody who works on a project, or everybody who works on poverty, or everybody who does this or that, might not necessarily be the right person for this project. And it's really hard not being able to, find any information on this firm anywhere, to trust that that's who these folks are. I hear a lot of, and I get it. I really, really do get it. I hear a lot of, we have to trust our staff, we have to trust the experts, we have to trust this, and I do the vast majority of the time. There are some things to me, though, that feel bigger than just you need to trust the experts or you need to trust staff, and this is one of those things, and maybe it's just because I'm so passionate about it personally, but it wasn't enough information for me, and it wasn't enough, and I hope to get there, because what we're trying to do is, as Vice Mayor Cooney mentioned, is big, and it's so important and needs to be done, and that's outstanding, and I am proud to be on a commission and a part of a city that works on this type of stuff. I really am. But I'm increasingly frustrated every step of the way. There seems to be a piece that just doesn't sit right. And this is one of those pieces, and I apologize if that offends anybody or if it upsets anybody, but I would be remiss if I didn't express my feelings on that. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't. And I'm cautiously optimistic. I always try to stay optimistic, so I'm going to stay there. But I hope we get more information. I'd love to see more information about this firm and the work that they're going to do, especially now that we've approved this contract and whatnot, as time moves forward. Especially since, and this is the last thought that I have on this, and I'll let it go, especially since when we first started having this conversation, when we first passed this, so many of our constituents, so many of our residents said, we trust you to look at all of the details. And when they said that, they didn't mean, just this one person or just the staff. They meant us too. They fully expected for each one of us to really dig into the details on this because it was so big. And I don't feel like we had the opportunity to do that on this decision, and that troubles me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank Mr. Lassiter for coming up and mentioning the individual who has the most to do with creating the sunshine laws in this country from one end to the other, Richard Nixon. And I don't know if that was his intent as part of the Watergate process, but that was certainly the result. And states from one end of this country to the other created their own sunshine laws, Open Meetings Act, that sort of thing, to help put some transparent structure to the activities of public officials. So I also would like to say that in terms of just being a regular participating citizen, the individual that spoke about this tonight is a regular attendee at these meetings and often has informed comments to make. And unfortunately, that is maybe fortunately for the length of the meeting, but unfortunately for the general citizenry, it's a rare thing, and I appreciate that also. That said, I know that there is some discussion about this in Grand Rapids now, and I did have a conversation with our city attorney today, who is someone that I depend on, talking about experts, to make sure that we are well within those guidelines and being entirely appropriate as it relates to Open Meetings Act. And I'm, I guess, sort of making a public request, maybe at some point in the future, that our own city attorney will provide us some information just for our own edification about what the parameters are clearly and the kind of information he provides to us to make sure that we are not just gaming a system, but that we are upholding, the words that are in our statutes here in Michigan. So I appreciate that. I don't know if we need a timeline on that or anything, but I'm hoping you can provide a response from the city of Kalamazoo and how we operate related to those questions.
If you are prepared, I can do it this evening.
I will leave that to the mayor's discretion.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Vice Mayor Cooney.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I know that every single commissioner up here wants as much as I do that every person in this community has access to what they need to lead a fully human life, that every person up here has a deep commitment to ending intergenerational poverty in this community. Secondly, I want to say that I think there were a lot of very important points made about this consultant tonight, and I appreciate them. I wish we didn't have to have a consultant, but I'm pretty convinced that if we don't bring in a consultant, we're going to be running around in circles for a long time, and it's time to move this thing forward. I don't expect this consultant to drive this process. I expect the people of this community to drive this process. But I believe that this consultant can be an important asset in helping us to do that. And I pledge to you tonight that if this consultant isn't, I will be the first one to scream, because my goal is that we come up with a transformative strategic plan to end intergenerational poverty in this community. And if this isn't helping us do that, let's get somebody else in here, or let's find another way to do this.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Knott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I obviously voted in support of the consultant. I have several reservations, but I'm taking the leap of faith with you, Mr. Vice Mayor. You've had some conversations with me. I know that this is your life work, that you've been working for 20 years with this commission to put a dent in poverty in our community. It does give me some comfort that the consultants already have some knowledge of our community, having worked with the United Way. I also respect Director Lamb's judgment, and I'll take her word, too, that more deliverables and meat are going to be teased out in the weeks to come. I do think that the rate that they're charging is too high. I don't know if this is the industry standard, if you're a strategic planner, but I think that the rate is very high. But I agree that we have to start someplace. We have to get moving. And so I prioritize, let's get off the dime and start rolling over bickering about $175 per hour rates. I hope that they provide us some magic and they do it soon, and if they don't, that we hold them accountable and we terminate this contract immediately. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Urban.
Thank you, Mayor Hopewell. A couple of things. Regarding the consultant, I'll use a chemist term. I think of the consultant in this case as a catalyst. And in chemical terms, what a catalyst does is it speeds the reaction and makes it more efficient. And that's what I hope this person will do. So that's my comment on that. I'd like to try to respond to Mr. Lassiter's remarks and take the opportunity to explain or to talk a little bit about how I've evolved on this issue of open meetings. Earlier in my time as a commissioner, I was pretty annoyed with how little information was coming to me except at city commission meetings. And I was told that the small group meetings are a way to get more information. But very often that's pretty routine. It's just updates. It's anything really exciting so far. It hasn't been. But still useful to know about. This rule of three, or less than quorum, is something I think is pretty well accepted in case law. So I'm not troubled by it. But what my involvement on this issue has been is to go to these work sessions. Remember at one time I was asking for committee of the whole meetings, and there was some resistance on that. Instead we evolved into having work sessions for a period of about 6 months where more complex issues that needed us to just learn the facts and the acronyms and some of the basic foundational information at a time where we all hear it at once. And those work session meetings have been going on now. We've had about 3 or 4 of them. We're going to have another one a week from now. And we're all going to hear the same thing at the same time. So that's an improvement over 2 or more small group meetings where which group got to hear it first and the other group is feeling left out, or the admin committee is meeting and I was left out. When you have the whole body here at once, that levels the playing field. It also builds trust. Every time you've had one of those work session meetings, I would say, at least from my point of view, they've been immensely productive and they seem like they help build trust amongst all of us. When there's trust there amongst us, we can exude that trust to the public. The public can start to pick up on that. If there's not trust amongst us, there's no amount of demand on end of secrecy that's going to satisfy the people who are distrustful. Fortunately, we're evolving with this current commission, and I'd say we were well along with the previous commission. Having that kind of trust where we know we don't have to lobby each other intensely on this issue or that. We all heard the facts at once, and we're all intelligent people. We can make up our own minds. We don't have to go into secret sessions and canvass every member privately. I haven't felt the need to do that, and the results so far, in my opinion, from the City Commission have been good. So I think we've evolved something that works pretty well. Those work sessions, by the way, are open to the public. They are effective, and they're open to the public. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Milzar?
Thank you. I want to thank everyone who came out tonight and wrote in to us over the last few weeks. I want to speak on a few items. One, I've heard several comments tonight and also in correspondence from citizens and folks in the community about sort of a panel on streets and bikeability. And I did just want to point out, and I believe it's been stated publicly here before, that the plan through the Complete Streets process is to start putting road projects, certain road projects through, I believe, the Planning Commission, although that's not formalized yet, in the future. So there will be a public body in which citizens can engage before these decisions hit us here at the Commission. So I did just want to clarify that for folks that had that question or comment, that essentially is the plan as we move forward on the whole with Complete Streets and our new Complete Streets policy. Did want to speak briefly on the consultant. I think going forward, certainly would like more information on the deliverables. Really, tonight, I got turned to a yes just on my familiarity with the outcome of the United Way process. Professionally, I was aware of that and how it was and what that outcome was. So that was sort of what was able to put me to a yes. Had that not been the case, I would have felt I didn't have enough information. So I just wanted to throw that out there, for future things as they come up. And then, opens meetings, committee on the whole. It's a discussion we've been having, I think, since maybe the first meeting or the first month I was on this commission. We've definitely discussed it on many occasions over that time, and this is ultimately where we've landed after, I believe, several discussions on it. I'd love to hear feedback from the city attorney in the future on what Commissioner Anderson had asked on tonight, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll try to be quick. On the opens meeting piece, the city attorney will have him submit a memo, and you'll get that, and you can bring that forward for discussion, even though I believe he's going to be resubmitting the memo you've submitted to us in the past, maybe not this body, but the commission previously. So we'll make sure that happens. For Director Kick, you do have a group that you're meeting with about Complete Streets, right? Beyond the beyond the citizens of the community, beyond the commission and operational staff. So it's not as if we aren't getting information and engaging the community on complete streets. Also, I want to make sure that I understand that for the roundabout project, the meetings with the north side, all over the paper, the roundabout's been in the paper. We've had a number of Imagine Kalamazoo opportunities to talk about this. So again, this work was not done in a silo. And I understand, and we've heard it over and over and over the years, where someone didn't know. I get it. I don't know what to say about that, but I get it. And I believe that there will always be somebody that doesn't know. Someone's going to ask you something about that happened tonight, and here we are, public setting, umpteen television cameras, and public media network, and our print media, and our radio media, and someone will say they didn't know. I got it. But this Imagine Kalamazoo process and this roundabout, I mean, we stopped the project even once. So we had a public meeting about this and said, whoa, we need more, there's concerns. So I appreciate where everybody is in their space of knowing or not knowing. I don't know how to make everyone know everything that's happening in a dynamic community such as ours. I just would love to have that answer. And then we'll have this chamber filled, and we'll have the atrium filled, and we'll have the community room filled, because everyone will want to know everything about all that happens here. For clarification and accuracy, I'm no longer on the M&L board, so just wanted to clarify that for accuracy's sake. And want to talk about the interconnected nature of this work and this journey that we're on. Whether it's the built environment, whether it's generational poverty, whether it's the success and excellence of our youth, the infrastructure in our streets, public art, all of this work is so interconnected. I was speaking to a group today that asked me about one little piece. I said, well, let me give you the whole story about how that piece will affect all of what we're doing in this community. So whether we approve a business to have a liquor license tonight or not, whether we make a contract for sewer lines, that sewer may serve that business may give a young person a job. I mean, it's so dynamic, and I love this, the dynamic nature of this, or this would be one unbelievably boring job. My last comments is going to be about more consulting. You know, I heard Commissioner Knott tell me that you can't find anything on these guys. That's a concern. I agree. I'm there because I've gotten to dig into this more, and certainly having the United Way at the table to talk to me. But one of the things we've said is that we have not done a good job at keeping you up to snuff, or up to, not snuff, but up on shared prosperity. And we have got to do a better job at that. So I'm calling us out, Mr. Vice Mayor, I'm just doing it, that we can do a better job at keeping the commission informed about what's going on. But it does concern me that we didn't know that there's no online presence. So here's what I'm going to ask from an action. One, I'd like to request that you take this meeting, the excerpts of this conversation, just pull out the excerpts of more consulting and make sure Mr. Moore sees that. Two, I want a conversation with them coming up soon saying, after we give them the video, and explain to me why you would have no online presence, so that I have a number of commissioners that are going, hey, what's going on with you? Is this not the 21st century? I thought it was. I've got an online presence. All of you have online presences, and you don't run big major businesses, so I'm a little confused on that one, especially in regards to the work that you do. So those are the two requests I have, because I think that it is important for us to understand what this business philosophy is. That, and I'm not, you may be the best in the world, but aren't you trying to sell your business? How do you do that other than word of mouth? And so I look forward to hearing their response to that. That's going to be kind of interesting. And I want to also thank Mr. Selden for taking me on a nice bike ride this weekend. The mayor's ride, I sort of missed most of you at the mayor's ride. It's interesting, as I typically almost always do. It was a great ride through city of Portage and Kalamazoo. The mayor of Portage joined us in that ride, and it's our annual ride to start off Bike Week, which is this week. So make sure you look out for the bicyclists out there, please. We know our streets aren't as safe as they need to be. There's no doubt about it. Absolutely. I think the work that has been done tonight, that you've done tonight with our staff, moves the dial, but we have so much more work to do on the network of roads and cycling that we have going on. I would submit to you that if you look at what the major cycling communities do, Portland, not every street is designed there's a path on every street. There's not. That doesn't mean we have to do that, but it's not all marked, and there's reasons for that I can't tell you anything about. And so I'm not going to try, but I just wanted to make sure we know that many communities, even Grand Rapids that is farther down the line than we are, don't have a bike path or a bike lane on every street. Some of it is for whatever reasons, I don't know. But I think we've come far. Let's celebrate Bike Week. Let's hopefully you can get out on your bikes and enjoy our amazing community, our amazing city during this week. We are adjourned.